Welcome back to the Roadside Rescue YouTube channel. I'm Ernest, and this morning we've got a diagnosis over here for a vehicle that dies intermittently, and then it won't restart until it cools back down. I've dealt with this issue a few times on my own truck, my very first truck I used to have. So I think we can probably get it figured out. It's most likely, I'm thinking, going to be some sort of grounding issue. So I'm going to clean up the grounds and check out the starter and everything, and we'll just have to test it out. We'll see what that battery looks like, what kind of amps it's putting out and everything. You know, there could be a few things leading to that. I've got a few things to wrap up before we get going. This truck every now and then runs low on coolant, so we're going to put some coolant in here and get everything locked up in the back so it's not going to slide around, and we'll head over there and get this diagnosed. All right, first things first. I've mentioned it before, I bent all these toolbox drawers so they won't slide open easily, so you kind of got to really pull on them. But they don't really slide open anymore when I'm out driving. Just as an added safety though, I always make sure they're locked up. Just put everything where it's not going to slide off, that won't slide off the top. And these ones will slide open because this is the downhill facing side, the curb's always on this side, so if I take a turn, these ones will slide open. But I think I'm going to end up bending those as well, just to prevent that from happening if I forget to lock them. And we'll grab some coolant. I've got some outside. Normally I have a bunch up here, but I've run low on coolant, and we'll get some coolant in here. Yeah, I'm gonna let this truck warm up a bit. It's pretty cool this morning, so the heater does a pretty good job of actually getting all the way back here somehow through this little door. And look, notice this door sitting open. So yeah, I guess just to keep this warm, I doubt I'll even hop up in here to warm up this morning. It's not that cold, but if I want to, you know, at least keep it nice and warm in here, and I'll park it in the sun or whatever. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just not circulating the coolant like it's supposed to. There's no, I mean, this is the reservoir, and this is all pressurized, so the cap sits on top of the reservoir. There's always pressure built up in here, as you can see. And so I think it just drains out a little bit more than it should and just ends up getting low. I mean, you can see there's usually still coolant in there. There's just a bit, so it's not like dangerously low. There's a sensor just on the side of this here, so whenever it's not touching this sensor, it's low, and so I'll fill it up to here. But over like a month or so, it'll just kind of sink its way down. And I've replaced the cap. There's just an issue with that pressure, and there's no like reservoir. This just goes straight to drain here, so I believe it just, you know, tops up, drains out a little bit, drains out more is my best guess as to what's happening. But doesn't cause me any worry because it doesn't run hot, and I just top it off once a month, so we'll get some coolant for that. See if we're frozen here. Maybe some ice in there. I feel it vibrating, so thing about out here is there's just a ton of water pressure, so shouldn't have too much of an issue getting all this ice out. There we go. It's actually kind of cool. There's all that ice. All right, we'll give this a shake and go get her topped off and get her running and warmed up, and we'll get on the way. All right, I gave it a little more than recommended, so it's like up to here, but I didn't want to have like a antifreeze jug that was like 1/8 of the way full, just sitting around. All right, we'll close this up. The hard thing about this is you have to pull this down so far to get past this release pin before it locks, so you kind of got to duck out of the way. There we go. Cap back on, right? Nope. All right, we got all the windows and vents closed. Let's get this heater turned up. All right, so we just got here. First thing I'm going to do is a visual inspection. So we'll go over there and pop the hood. We'll look everything over, look for any grounds that look like they may be, you know, not grounded properly, specifically the one on the engine. And yeah, we'll just look over all the ground wires. We'll test for good ground at the engine to make sure that that starter's getting grounded, and then we'll test the ground on that starter. And if nothing's conclusive, we'll maybe clean stuff up, tighten it up, and then we'll warm it up and see if we can get the problem to happen, and then do some testing there. So if, you know, if it's something when it just warms up and then the grounding becomes an issue, you know, it doesn't ground, then that'll happen, you know, when it's warmed up. We'll be able to find that if that's the case. So that's where I'm going first. We'll hop over there and check it out. Oh yeah, let me hit the lights here. First, I'm gonna just go ahead and see how it starts, if it feels like it's weak or anything. Okay, well, that felt like a fuel issue or something. I didn't feel like a ground. It's running fine now. I'll do a fuel pressure test as well, just from the way it started and kind of died, choked out there. So first thing I'm gonna do is look at these battery cables, the terminals. If they look pretty bad, I'm gonna replace them, since that's a likely issue. And they do look pretty corroded, so that could be the issue itself. See how much ground wire they gave us. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and replace those. Get that all cleaned up. The battery looks pretty new. Let's look for the date on that. See if it's hidden over here somewhere. It's probably on this sticker here, the Napa battery. Yeah, so we'll start with these terminals, but I'm gonna go ahead before I do that just to kind of get a baseline and check for ground at the engine and everything, and the chassis, just make sure we're grounded right, and then I'll hop down there and look at the starter after I replace these. We'll get that cleaned up and we'll get the ground to the engine cleaned up. All right, so I've got my battery supplies here. I already don't remember exactly what one of those looks like. And one of them we can use this lead one for that ground. Let me grab this one because I know there was a couple of things that needed to be connected on it. If you could see that, I just don't remember. So I think it's probably this one that's gonna fit. If that's the negative, I mean, if that's the positive, looks like it's negative. So let me grab this positive one over here in this pack. Since it's a bit bigger, that negative one won't fit on it. And these as well. The difference in these are the bolts on the top. These are the marine style. This bolt's bigger for the positive, it's smaller for the negative. On some vehicles, even the positive is smaller. So I have this little pack I got off of Amazon. That's why I like to keep pretty much one of everything here in this drawer. I'm not going to replace that ground cable unless it's really corroded inside. I doubt it. It looks like it's pretty well sealed up, so I'll cut it, check it out. But my plan is just cut it and strip it and get that going like that. Here's this. Grab some stronger cutters. These will do fine. All right, this is everything we should need to clean up that battery. I'm gonna grab a bit of brake cleaner as well. Okay, this is going to be a traditional terminal as well. I remembered seeing these two prongs. There's a likely issue right here. But some of those are those marine style where you connect them. In fact, I could even turn it into that, but I'll probably just go with the original style terminal there. I'll loosen this up. There's a lot of corrosion here. This is often overlooked. People will clean up here around the post in terminal, but they won't get anything here clean. You can see some corrosion here, but there's probably a likely issue of just not good continuity between these two pieces of metal with the amount of corrosion on there as well. There's no guarantees, but it's a great place to start. We'll see. This may not be the issue, but that's what it sounds like. So I'm going to start with this since it needs to be cleaned, and then we'll move to fuel pressure issue possibility later. Yeah, and we'll just replace these. They're pretty old. Yeah, we have plenty of length on that ground cable. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that. Yeah, there's a bit of corrosion actually coming out of that cable. So I may replace it. It's pretty short though. Yeah, there's quite a bit of corrosion. I'm gonna strip down here. I can see the discoloration here. I'm gonna see if it goes much further than this. I'll strip it down and see if I should clean it or if I should pull out a new ground cable. But I should be able to clean that up. It's not too corroded. Okay, so it looks pretty clean down here. That corrosion looks like it was just around that terminal there, so that's good. I'll probably be able to reuse this cable. It is swollen up a little bit, so this is giving me some troubles coming off. All right, I'm gonna use a bit of brake clean here, kind of fan this cable out and get it cleaned up. Alright, so I went ahead and hit this with some foaming battery cleaner, so I'm going to get that off now since it eats up that corrosion pretty well, and we'll use a wire brush on that other stuff anyways. So I'm going to take this wire brush now, just comb out this wire, get all that corrosion off of it. Okay, now I'm going to hit that with some brake clean. It should be nice and clean now. Just to clean off any residue there. Same thing on these terminals. And now I'm going to take that wire brush and clean these up real well. Alright, I hit that with some more of that acid-eating spray. I'm going to go ahead and clean these posts up, and then we'll get the new terminals on, which I will clean as well. Here's this tool that people are probably the most often asked about. what this is. It's a battery cleaner. It's in the description down below, but it just uses a piece of metal to scrape a clean layer off of that post, basically. That's what it does. Okay, here's our new terminals. This part of the cleaner here scrapes a little layer off of the inside. Makes that all nice and shiny. And do the same thing for this one. Make it all nice and shiny. Morning. All right, we'll get some silicone paste on there. Like that, just enough to inhibit corrosion in the future. Doesn't have to be caked on there. All right, so we got both those new terminals on there. Let me take this bolt out here. We're going to connect these just like they were, with lots of silicone on there to keep those from getting rusty or corroded. So we'll go ahead and do that. Get some on the top of those, get some all over here. Perfect. All right, so I just got that positive on there. I'm going to do the negative ground here. Make sure there's lots of silicone around there. Just a little bit of overkill. We'll get some nice silicone all over this wire here. Trying to get it all down in there, just to keep that from corroding. And that looks good. Go ahead and slide it in there. Okay, that's nice and tight. Kind of wipe up a little bit of that silicone paste that may be extra there. That's barely holding on there. I just noticed this. And we'll check ground to the engine and down there to the starter with the test light and a multimeter. And hopefully that was the issue itself, but maybe that ground to that engine or starter. So we'll check that out as well. This was just the starting spot for us. So on to the next probable issue. All right, so just a little preliminary test here. I'm gonna hook my power probe up to the positive here, and then I'm just gonna probe down on the engine, down by the starter, and make sure that those are grounded enough to set off this light. Then I'll warm it up and check, see if that didn't fix the issue, if that all looks good. If it didn't, then I'll test fuel pressure and I'll use a multimeter to test any sort of bigger issue going on with, you know, not a strong enough ground or anything like that. Okay, chassis grounded. Not the painted screw, but just trying to check everything here. Just some different points on the chassis. Looks like that's grounded. Looks like the engine's grounded here. Valve cover probably not. Got exhaust, good. So probably the AC compressor, yep, it's grounded. And let me check the block and the starter. All right, so here we got it warmed up. And it's starting pretty good, so I've done this a few times. I'm gonna do it a couple more times after it runs for, it's been about 10-15 minutes. I'm gonna let it run for another 10 or 15 minutes just to make sure it gets nice and heat soaked and make sure it starts. I did clean up the ground to the engine. I didn't get any video of it because I was about to do a fuel pressure test and decided to come up here and just, you know, test it according to what the customer said. When it's warm, it won't start, and it's starting. So yeah, I didn't get anything under there, but again, we'll let this run for another 10 minutes and make sure it keeps starting. And if it does, then we're good. I think it was either the ground to that engine, which was pretty rusty, or you know, the ground up by the battery, or some power issue up near the battery. So all right, it's been another 10 minutes. It's nice and warm now. Everything's warmed up, and we're not having any issues starting this. So that took care of it. This is the Roadside Rescue YouTube channel. I'm Ernest. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next episode. This is a job well done. Here was my thinking of putting those lights up so high on the truck, is if I parked directly in front of somebody, it'd be visible over their vehicle, and it looks like I was right. Probably on most vehicles, you'll be able to see that over the top of their vehicle, and then I've got the ones on the sides if not.